It is like a team family approach to it, and I think that's why people like to be a part of it. And I don't think it's because we pay a certain rate. I think all that stuff has something to do with it, pay time off. I think that stuff has a lot to do with it, but I think there's a lot more than that. I think it's about being a part of a bigger thing, wearing a hat that shows that you're a part of this group. You're part of this crew, a part of this family, and it's a pretty big force to be reckoned with, you know. And I think that that's kind of the culture we've tried to create.
Yeah, let's talk about that force. You got how many employees do you have at Omnibuild?
It hovers between like 45 and 49 employees right at the moment. Um, we were looking at this the other day. We're really um trying to set the company up in a way where it's more defined of what people's roles are, and it's been a process of learning. But we were talking about our employees the other day, and we hover right around that amount, 46 to 49, but we feel like we're working 200 per day, like between our subs, the people that we have relationships with. There's certain subs that now pretty much just work with us most of the time. They have their own companies. They do a different type of work than what we're doing, whether it's drywall, insulation, masonry, different type levels of tram cabinetry. But at any given moment, we feel like there could easily be 200 people in the field that we're managing, and it's a lot. It's a lot of circumnavigating relationships and weird situations and things like that. So over the years, one of the things that my partner Abel, which we're no longer partners anymore, and we can get into all that in another time, or even today whenever it actually comes up. But one of the things that when we started the company, it was me and him in a hotel room, and we were traveling on the road working, and it wasn't going well for our families. And we felt like we needed to shift that. And we decided that um, we would start in a company when we got back home. And so we got our licenses, or he got his license, which then I got mine. But that was just the order of things. I was going to start the business and he was going to go get his license. And so we did that. And one of our first morals of our company was we want to treat the people we're working with the way we would want to treat ourselves. And so we've always wanted to put back into the company as much as we could to make people feel like it wasn't just like, let's go punch clocks, let's go be a part of something, and that tool, like OmniBuild to me is a gigantic tool. And if you're a part of that tool, then you have use of that tool, you know, at different capacities. And so I think building it in that manner is what's made people want to come work here, I know, because I think we're one of the bigger companies around that are like OmniBuild, like construction wise. There's bigger manufacturing companies and Food Lion and different things like that. But as far as a construction company goes, I'd say we're one of the bigger ones around. And, we don't run a lot of ads. People come and want to work, people meet us and want to work. We've worked, one of the things we always say is attitude's way more important than experience. We'd rather train somebody or teach somebody that has a good attitude and work ethic, as opposed to somebody that knows a lot that has a bad attitude, because that does not go over well in a tight community. It's pretty much push yourself out. I worked in New York City for a while, and that city's pretty brutal. And it's like, I felt like I've told people in New York City that moved there and like left after 6 months or a year. It's like, if you can't cut it, that city chews you up and spits you out. and it chewed me up and spit me out. I almost can't even stand to go there now. I think it's cool. I think it's like a really cool metropolis of like all the stuff. It's cool architecture, lots of different types of people, but the grind and the hustle up there is a lot, you know? And I feel like that's the same kind of philosophy in a family that you create, not the type that you marry into and make babies, more the type you create around your business is that if you don't fit in that family, you ain't gonna last because you're not gonna feel like a part of it and you're gonna hate life. And you just kind of naturally find your way out, you know? And it's just naturally happened that way through leadership and the leadership isn't me, it's Justin and Ian and Orion and Kip and Graham and Daniel and Kenny and Corey and all the way down to everybody. Shay, John Epperly. I mean, you know, there's a bunch of leaders and you don't just need to be in a leadership position to be a leader, you know. And I think that's a cool part too. People want to be a part of that and that circle, you know, and so they work hard to kind of make their way into that, you know. We just uplifted a new like foreman, you know, and he's super excited. You know, he had tears in his eyes. I felt like I could have been having tears in my eyes because we're supposed to have like the glacial effect this weekend. Everybody's like freaking out about this snowstorm coming. And somebody asked me last night at the high school basketball game, "What have you heard about the news?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, you mean the glacial effect?" And they're like, "I haven't heard that." And I was like, "Floyd's gonna become a glacier for the next 1,000 years after this." And they were like, "Seriously?" And I was like, "Wow, people are gullible." So, no, we're supposed to have a big storm, and so it's cold and windy and getting gnarly, so we could have just had, like, tears in our eyes because it was windy.
Yeah,
I don't cry
it's not real emotions.
anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just cool to see that because it felt cool for me to be like, "Here's the keys to your new truck. Here's your responsibilities. Here's a person you're in charge of, and here's the jobs you're in charge of." It's kind of a cool moment.
It's really
It's like
cool.
some independence, some opportunity, so, I'm excited. They seem excited. We'll see how they feel next week. Because I think, you get into and you don't realize the different levels of responsibility. And some people thrive in that and some people need some time to thrive in it. They need that kind of purgatory moment of like, what is, nobody tells me what to do anymore. I just have to figure it out, but it's cool to watch that process.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a lot of processes that you've been working on for years that seem to make Omnibuild stand out and have led to your successes as a great company in the area and a company that a lot of people seek out, because you have what I've heard is called the phases of Omnibuild. I've always been interested in how you outline that to clients, and because it seems like it really gets people to the finish line or help them see the vision where the building a project, whether it's a home or a commercial project, it's a big goal that people have. It's the biggest purchase you'll ever make in life.
It's huge.
And so there's a lot of stress that goes into that. And I think what you guys have done to make people feel comfortable, but not only that, bring the vision to fruition is like a well-oiled machine.
That's a loaded compliment. But it's also a compliment. Thanks. No, it's like a weird thing because I say things that I don't think make sense sometimes, but I think it makes sense in the moment, or nobody tells me it doesn't make sense, and I just keep saying it anyway. But there's kind of a lot to that. So, when we meet a customer, one of the first things I say is we're engaging in a long-term, short-term relationship. It's got all the long-term kind of emotions and feelings, but it's pretty short in the grand scope of things, So it's like we're going to be dealing with financial issues and decisions around the place where you're going to like go to the bathroom every day, and sleep every day and make food and potentially give birth to a baby in. It's like if you do a home birth, which is a thing. But it's a lot. And like I look at it that way, and some people don't. They look at it as like a paycheck. Like I'm just gonna like pick up this client and I'm gonna work for them and I'm gonna get paid. And for me, I'm more than likely gonna see them at the Friday Night Jamboree or Food Lion or any of the little spots in Floyd because there's not many of them. And the last thing I want to do is be like, shoot, there's that person. I want to be like, high five, man. We got your job done. It's awesome. We're happy, And so, people initially think, man, Omnibuild's the most expensive or Omnibuild's blah, blah, blah. The truth be told is we're just the most realistic. I think that we've taken a lot of time to coach our people that are in project management positions to price what we are basing on a very educated assumption of what they're going to want. A lot of people are going to go in there and price what they think people want or what they want to do to make the number desirable. Like, let's just price the whole house as carpet or linoleum because they can always upgrade, you know, and their number looks good up front, but at the end of the day, they're just going to have so many upcharges that it takes the fun out of the bill. And I want to get the bad news out of the way up front and be like, yep, I could tell your house is going to be 350,000 and you're going to do $50,000 in change orders, but leave that second part out, the change order part. Or I can tell you it's going to be 400,000. Let's figure out how to make that number work. And give you what you want and make this process fun because there's not going to be any change orders. I mean, there's always change orders of little things like that window needs to move over 2 feet or man, I just went and stayed at my friend's house and their kitchen sink is awesome and I got to figure out a way to get that. But we haven't priced the cheapest possible kitchen sink to begin with. So